right, we are live now. So today we're going to talk about. We talked a lot of angles in the last part of the last webinar. But then if you take the last, probably 10, we really talk a lot about angles between wrists, what their functions are, and the arms are, and how they can cause what, and so forth, and what they can and can't do, which I think is most important. In general, but then there's also, the part we talk about today, which is going to be about the slowdown effect. A lot of videos you'll see I have that in there about deceleration, training deceleration. There's a difference between, it's not truly decelerating as far as speed, but parts of the shaft get decelerated. And in training, they actually do decelerate, so you can find pressure or not find it. If you don't feel pressure when you do deceleration patterns, you don't have it. Because once you do, you'll feel it for the first time. You'll feel the pressures, and that's what you're looking for. And I'm talking about the shaft, not in your hands or anything like that. It's going to create pressure into your hands, but it's really in that side of the shaft that we talk about, on that lead side, that lead section. But the slowdown effect is something where, and it's different for every player. So when you hear the float, that's the slowdown effect. That's part of it for sure. But when we get in there, so a player that has a really long swing, their slowdown effect happens in a different place than somebody like, so for Dustin Johnson, he's got, a longer swing, especially with the driver, it gets past parallel. It's fine. It's great. Like I said, length of swing doesn't matter to us. And it could go way further than that, like a Bubba Watson or John Daly. It's proven to be Bobby Jones. There's just, you go one after the Tom Watson, anything past parallel. It's nothing wrong with past parallels. As long as it's not fake, wristy, vertical wrist cupping and the body's not turning, so then it becomes an issue. But, you have to do what you do. He has pressure the entire time when he's loaded in here, and that even takes more flexibility. He's not really, creating a vertical fake wrist cock. But most people, and he's got a full turn, most people won't turn. They'll just, if you can picture not turning, this angle, I'll try to create it. So if you haven't seen this before, a really big angle between in the thoracic and so forth. He's really getting a lot of mobility out of there. If you don't have that, most people have, maybe this right here, in their club maybe dipping like this, and they say, oh, well, he's got it, all that is vertical wrist cock. So there's no pressure in the shaft. There's zero. So it's easy for anybody to do that. A lot of female players do that. Female players that are weak, a lot of men players that are weak do the same thing, or that they might not have the mobility. So you have to understand which one's which for your own swing. But you really want that. You want that pressure. Like I said, in this section of the shaft is where all the pressure, right in there is really. You get right in that area right there, and that section gets pressure. When I say pressure, you have to feel it. It's one of the way it's angled is one of the ways to feel it. And if it's not angled there, then you assume you don't have it until you angle it back the right way, and that's through the wrist and the arms. Also, it can be through the turn too. No question about that. Wrist and arms are going to be most important because that's what hits the ball. Your eyes, wrist, and arms, those are the most important parts. But in the slowdown effect, so if you know that let's just go ahead and draw it. So the way I like to do it, if I'm showing somebody, their natural, let's say that's their natural length of swing. That's definitely his. That's where he is. Not superficial. It's just where he goes. So with a driver, not shorter with irons. His first part of his slowdown effect would be about, and this is again, I'm not going to highlight that. I'm going to draw something else. I'm going to draw this different line. That's the first part where, in his mind here, he's slowing down the club. All right. So when he gets to that first stage, if everything's working right, that first stage, he's slowing down in this area until he gets all the way, to what we call the end point, which would be the second part of transition. So wherever the end point is, that's where it's going to stop. And if you look, as he's doing that, there's really no movement. He's got some sinking, and not squatting. Remember the difference. He's got a little bit of sinking going on as he's doing that, but he has no rotation. He has no rotation back the other way. So he's not trying to getting the club set there and then trying to counter that and open wide up, open way up. He's just staying right there, and he's loading all this torque. You can see it, all this torque into his core. diagonally through the core, right? All right, and everything's stable. There's no rotation. He's still in his backswing rotation right here, so he hasn't countered. He hasn't opened his lower body or his upper body or any of that stuff. So that's the second part of transition. All right, and then if you take the third part of transition that I talk about, I call it 3 stages because, I mean, you could call it a million if you wanted to label everything, but I think the simplest way that I've seen is label it in 3. And as he comes out of transition, as you've seen him sink right here, and that second part of transition, there you can see, if you watch here, all you're doing is watching him go downward, you know, sinking, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it. He's just going, if you look, he's not rotating. Try to do that the best I can with that. So if you watch, there's first stage. Second stage, all you're going to see is him go downward. That's where I talk about where you start to sink. So if you look at that line, he's not there yet. He's getting closer, and as soon as it gets to the end point, he'll start to sink himself right in here. He's right in that mode, and he's starting to sink himself down to get ready for the third stage. So you can watch, he's going lower than the line. He still hadn't rotated. Now there's finally, after he dropped, you know, if you want to call it drop, sinking's better, but if he's moved just say the few inches there, downward to where that line is now. Now he's finally level. He's finally moved there. He still hasn't rotated out of here. Now, third stage is where he's going to move out of this. He's going to start slightly rotating back to his left. And as you see that, there will be a continual, you'll see a continual, you know, lowering or sinking here, but you'll also start to see the rotation. So you're going to start to see rotation of the whole body, not spinning and snapping and all this stuff. Just watch the speed of it. You'll see a continuing lowering. So he still hadn't rotated. Now he's barely moving, barely. And then now you're starting to see, and it's the whole body, not his hips. It's the whole body. His upper body's rotating. Everything is rotating. But it's smooth and it's slow, and you can see how much lower. So when everybody says about Tiger, oh, he drops, you know, he drops, you know, in transition. Well, that'd probably be the way, or he squats in transition would be a better way. But every player that's any good on the tour lowers himself in transition. They sink, and that's what I always talk about. And then they'll eventually, as they get to a certain point, they'll rise back up here in a little bit. As he's done, he's starting to finish the swing here. Probably going to be, oh, right around where the club gets to his left shoulder. I've never really looked at it. Because he stays so low with that right shoulder. And eventually he'll finish back up. So he's getting close to that point I'm talking about. There's that point. And I've never studied it from that angle. And you can tell his wrist, now his arms are at that level. And you're going to see him come back up to that line. So don't get fascinated on like you're going up and down. You don't want to do all that, because if you do that, you're going to just squat, not turn. You're not. A lot of these players are doing that naturally because of how they train their hips and their lower lumbar and their thoracic spine. They're doing this and they don't even know they do it. If you ask them if they did it, they would say, "No, I don't change levels like that." Every player on the tour changes levels like that. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. So what we want to talk about today is the slow down effect, which is going to start for his swing. For this particular swing right in here, he's going to start to slow down. He's going to start to sink, and then he gets in this area. He actually stalls, and we want you to stall. We want you to not be moving around in this second stage. We want everything almost like a pause. And then as you unwind, this is where we talk about the third stage. The club doesn't cast away. That's where in my video, where some of the guys look and they go, well, you know, you cast. No, you don't. You push your arms away, but you keep what you have. So as you're moving the arms back this way, let's say the hand's back in this direction. Okay, you can say whichever one you want. It's fine with me. You're pushing them this way, but you're not casting that right wrist this way. So you have to look at that. I'll make smaller lines. So if you look, oops, I lost this, what'd I do? You're not looking to take this back wrist right here that's bent, right? And then you're not looking to extend that. That's not what I'm looking for. It can have some of that, like David Tom, you can have some of it, a little bit. But really not, that's not what I'm looking for. And I'm talking about this. When I'm talking about extension, I'm saying you keep all this the same, whatever you got, this angle right here, that angle that you have. And you're moving it this way, away from your body. That creates width, but you're not casting that club away to do it. You're pushing those arms away, so that gives you pressure. You've got a little bit of cast that you can do, like a David Toms. There's other players that do it. I think JB Holmes does some of that. It doesn't matter. There's players that, but what you don't want to, what I don't want to see players do is down cock. I don't want to see them as they're starting down, cocking this, bending this wrist down even more, or there's going to be some bending. I shouldn't say that, but cocking it, and also collapsing the arms down towards the body. It's where they think it looks like fake lag, and it is. It's fake. It's real narrow. It looks like there's a lot of down cock, and the club bounces way down here by the ball. The club's going to, if you do that, it's going to bounce away from you, and you're going to have this big flip, and you'll probably hit it sideways. It's where people are trying to either hold on to the lag or get real flimsy. You don't want to be flimsy. Once you've got the pressure here, if you've done it right, if you've got the pressure in this section of the shaft, in this area, all that's loaded, you move that away, you keep the pressure there, and you're moving it away from your body as your body's unwinding. And in the third stage, in my opinion, sorry, yep, hope I didn't lose that, but if I did, we'll figure it out. But you don't want to lose when you get to that third stage. What you don't want to do is you don't that's going to be your most important. So when you're in the last stage, you're in the second stage. Debatable. Second and third is probably the most important this is just an opinion, by the way, so you just have to go with what it is. When you get in here, the slowdown effect is at full force. All right, it started, you got to remember, when you started it, some people don't really start it right here, but he's probably starting right in here, and we can't really measure it, but there's definitely ways to measure it. It's been measured, and with the greatest ball strikers on the planet, the slowdown effect is happening right in here, but it's got to be relative. Like if his swing was only this long, it wouldn't be happening right there. It would be happening much shorter. But since it's longer, he may be starting, it's hard to say exactly, but he may be starting even in this area, a little further back than what I was saying earlier. And only measurements would tell that, science would tell that, but in feel. All I'm saying, if you feel the slowdown effect sooner than later, you'll probably do better as an amateur. All right, and then it's its slowest point in the second stage. The slowest point of the golf swing is the second stage, which is right here. So right now it's at its slowest point, and you can see it's just common sense. You don't need measurement tools or anything. Just your eyes and what you can see in 2D will do fine here. There's no movement back. You don't see him rotated and open and all that stuff. It's none of that. He's right there, but he's let that collect, and he's waiting and he's waiting. He's got pressure. He knows it, and then when he collects it and he gets all that pressure in his body and his hands, he's like, well, now it's time to roll. And so when he does, he'll come out of the third stage, and that's where you're going to see the unwinding of the body, of the entire body. Think of this as all one unit, starting to gently unwind, and you can start to see he still kept the pressure in the bend in the shaft, and you'll start to see his arms move away. So he doesn't get narrow. Like if he got narrow, his hands would be here right now. That's a problem, because if you get narrow, then you're losing space. You're going to be starting to bounce and jump way before you've hit the ball and things like that. And so he's got this, what we call distal end speed. That's the true radius of the swing. And that's why I think that he has the best swing. As far as if you take fundamentally, and I don't look at it from a traditional, golf fundamental standpoint where you're looking at face and shaft. I tell everybody that, or even body. His body could be just like he is and shoot 150, because I've seen people like that are built just like him that do shoot 150, and they're just as athletic. And so it's not about just being an athlete. You look, if that's the case, then Ricky Fowler wouldn't have a chance. Corey Pavin would have never had a chance. You're talking about people that's the one beautiful thing we have in our sport. It's not really about that. You still have to train like a golfer in the gym and do things like that, but really at the end of the day, you don't even have to do that if you're fundamentally. If you find the fundamentally way to get the ball to go straight, the height you need it to go, and stop the way you need it to, it doesn't really matter what the style, but you're going to have to follow some basic laws, of physics and also biomechanics to be able to get it to, I would say, maximize your potential. But there's going to be all going to look a little bit different. But in my opinion, the way he does it, back in the day, everybody was saying, "Oh, his face is shut." I remember um, when I first saw Dustin Johnson for the first time, everybody goes, "Oh, his face is shut," and it's all this, it's all that. It's no, oh, he's gonna blow his left wrist out. He's never even had a left wrist injury, and he's been doing this for how many years? It's not even so. He's not going to have a left wrist injury because he's not using his left wrist like people think. He's using his thoracic spine and he's using his right wrist to bend his left wrist. And, so like I said, he's using his thoracic here. He's using his right wrist to bend his left wrist. And he's doing it in a way that is silky and it's in time. And he's not bowing the left wrist, even though the left wrist gets, if you're technically talking, it becomes bowed. But he's not bowing the left wrist. He's using his right wrist correctly. And that you'd have to, if you study our videos, you'll see. And it's actually really what he's doing in a lot of ways, especially for full swing is perfect. If you did it in short game as early as he does it in short game, that's where he got penalized, and now he doesn't. He found out how to be a great wedge player by saving that, waiting a little longer, which is what we talk about the float. Don't do it, in the first few inches with a wedge. If you're trying to hit a 20-yard wedge shot, you're probably going to get faced because if you bend it early, there's a difference when you bend it early and late. And I'm not even going to go into the differences. I'm just saying if you bend everything like what we're talking about, how it should be bent, if you do it right away from the ball that much, like especially he does, you get the club shut, and you truly do get it shut because it hadn't had time to recover. So it does need to be, you've got a few degrees of being open or square or shut, but your greatest short game players, wedge players, short wedge players are going to have the club either dead square, which looks shut to most people, and or slightly open because then they can shut it on the way through. If you get it shut too much early in short game and chipping, especially chipping, then you're really in trouble, especially if you're hitting into the grain, because you're going to get the front leading edge coming in too steep relative. I don't care what plane you're coming in on, it's going to be shut down. The leading edge gets stuck, and that's where you dub it. It's what Tiger was having issues with. When he came back originally, way I don't know what 2 or 3 years ago where it was. That was like it wasn't Pebble Beach, but it was. It doesn't really matter, but it was where was that? It does matter a little bit. It's where they used to have the Buick Open, but that's okay. It's the North and South course there. But man, he came back. The tournament he always won. And somebody can tell me that later, but it's not something I've got. It's not something I even prepared for today. But I can tell you when he came back, that's what he was struggling with more than anything. Was like his pitching and his chipping were so bad, but he was getting the handle stuck down and in, and he's getting the face stuck out and shut, and that's a death move. And if you don't know what those words or terms are, you can email me, and I'll describe them for you. We probably need to have a general dictionary of those words and what they are, because most instructors talk in that form of language. I don't think there's a lot of us that talk too much around it, but it really has to do with how you move your arms and your wrist. Anytime your club is either shut or open or it's rolled inside, anybody talks about that, or it's steeping out. All that is what you're doing with your arms and your wrist. It's it. There's nowhere where else you can do it from. So when you understand what the functions of are, what they're really designed to do, or how to recover, because you can do all those, and if you know how to recover, you know how to recover. If you don't, you don't. What happens with professionals? I don't think I don't think there's a professional out there right now that's taught recovery. I don't know that it even can be. I think you can get them to where you have a general where you say, hey, look, with this style of swing, you better bring your arms back out here and all this stuff. But they usually have already found what that is, girls or guys, because every swing has a recovery. Even if you have the whatever, you name the perfect backswing, and man, I've seen them. I had a kid that came in several years ago. His kid was shooting in the 90s, and he looked like Adam Scott at the top of his swing. And if that's what you like to look at, he big, athletic, shooting in the 90s, couldn't break an egg, basically, and he'd been playing a long time, and he'd been working with a lot of instructors, and they'd made his backswing. It was probably the best backswing that walked through the doors, and man, maybe 24 years. I don't know. It was way different, and it was athletic. It was a big turn. He looked just like he did up here at the top of his swing, but it looked more kind of what we call neutral relative to like that was considered in the day neutral. With Adam Scott and all whatever, which is really not. But in general, he looked big turn like this, big athletic kid like this, couldn't break nine. He had been playing golf. his whole life, and he got worse and worse and worse going into his junior year. And they came to me kind of out of desperation. They'd worked with a lot of instructors, and they finally hit the button where it's like, you know what, we're going to quit saying he's talented. He's just not. He's not putting up any numbers, so he must not be that good. And I watched him. I was like, man, I could see where you would say he's talented. He's got no downswing. He doesn't know. He has no idea what to do on the down. He just thinks because he has perfect takeaway, perfect top of the backswing, perfect rotation, whatever that is. He's got all those things, and they look awesome. They look just like similar to this, and he can't play. So I was like, he has to learn the downswing. As soon as he learned the downswing, um, within I believe it was 2 weeks, he was shooting low 70s. He ended up being playing. He ended up playing D1 golf, and it was a simple process. And he was running out of time. I think it was his junior year when he came in, because it was like, if you're playing D1 golf, or if you want to go play, not D1, if you want to go play college golf, you better be ready your junior year. You better be putting numbers up, because if you're not, you're going to be digging big time to try to get into a junior college, or some little small college to hopefully keep it going for you. And that's where he wouldn't even got in there with the scores he's putting up. And my point is he had a talent, was sitting there, but he was a backswing guy, and he had no idea. And his backswing fundamentals, in my opinion, had been built very well. Whoever built them did really well. They just didn't pay attention. They kept thinking, I'm sure one day this is going to work. Well, I think when you get overtrained, especially in backswing, I don't think if you get overtrained even in anything, technically in the game, what'll happen is the players start relying on you too much and they don't play. And I was noticing he wasn't. We had a goal. I said, I want you to play 40, what was it? Let's see, no, 36 holes a week for 2 weeks, and I want you to be 72 holes a week for 4 weeks. And then we'll see where we're at. By the time he got through that 6 week period, with all the holes that I had him play in between our lesson. He's a high school kid, so he got out at 3:30, could play. He was in the winters, playing a couple hours a day. And he would get those holes in, and about you could see it the first 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, right off the bat, I mean, as soon as he got into that, that 6 week and finishing, he really didn't need me a whole lot anymore, as far as what he was doing now, what he was built to do. He was playing at that level. Now he needed to, more mental coaching and things like that. The technical side had been covered. He knew how to do the downswing. He was thinking downswing, and so forth. And the same thing, it was working slowdown effect. It was working changing angles. It was working changing levels. It was working everything as far as getting him to think differently. And the other thing is, I was having, I think it was the third week, I had him spend a whole week, when he would go out, hit one shot left to right, one shot right to left. And the reason why I did that, it didn't matter which one. I don't care if it's a driver, if it's whatever. Usually, like the hole sets up to hit it right to left, hit it right to left. And I had him spend that, or maybe 2 weeks like that, I think it was, and saying hit every single shot different. And what that did for somebody that's really got the process of analysis is it starts to make them think. They get away from their techniques a little bit. I need him to think a technique at first to get him out of thinking about technique. I need him to think about downswing first. And then after that, I put him on the artsy side, which was like just hit a different shot. And I'm not talking 30-yard slices and 30-yard, no, we're talking about I want it to go 5 yards or 10. 5 yards would be the max that you'd want. But try to hit a different shot on every single shot. That way, and it made it fun for him. So when he played, he wasn't just hitting straight and hitting the same trajectory, and then we had high and low and all that. And so what it did is it turned him into becoming like, usually how these great players find it is by doing things like that. They'll go out, they'll hit a hook for the whole summer, or they don't ever really hit it a lot straight. They just either might hit a cut or a hook, and then they go, oh, okay, I'm gonna switch back because I play better this way. But my point is they got to find out which one they like to do and which one they play best with. And it turns off their mind. It makes them think creativity instead of, like, oh, you got to turn this way, you got to slow down here, you got to get your angles this way and all that. And I would recommend that. Obviously, anything I recommend to a junior golfer, I certainly recommend to an adult golfer that's anywhere in there, anywhere. I don't care if they're up to 90. You want them to learn how. You want them to get them to learn your philosophies with techniques, because that's huge. And then there's a way to turn that off. And there's a million different ways. A lot of it, it's like we talked about playing money games. It's amazing how that turns their mind off. You start getting beat. And had a conversation yesterday with a player's parent, and it was about, I've never met a great player that didn't gamble, and they didn't, because it turned their minds off and they just wanted to compete. And if they get beat and they like to get beat, they're never going to be any good anyway. So that's just the way it's going to be. If they don't like getting beat, they'll figure out. And the way you do it, you don't have somebody play that's the same level. Get somebody better than you are. You know, if you're if you're in the 50s or 60s on here, or you're in the 30s or 20s, or if you're 15 on here and you're watching this webinar, you know, you want to play with the best player at the club that you have. That's way better than you are. Best player in the state, the best player in the world would be perfect. Just hard to do unless you know somebody. But go play with somebody that's way better than you are. And when you do that, and you want to try to have it where it's consistent, you can really play with them a lot. And don't just go out there and play them, because they're not trying to kill you if they're good. But if you get a competitor like that's really good and you want to play them for some money, they're going to try to throttle you. That's what you want. And as bad as it sounds, you're thinking, oh well, I'm gonna lose money or I might lose material. I don't care. Even if it could be. That's what I was saying yesterday. I said it doesn't have to be money. It could be like a pair of shoes. It could be whatever it could be. It could be a Coca-Cola. It could be something. But you got to play like Harvey Pinnock always said. It's in the little red book, first one he made. But it talks about that, about playing for something, because if you go out there and if I came up to, so if I came up there and I went to, let's say, well, I'll say Jordan Spieth right now, and I went to play, and I really wanted to I really wanted to work on my game for 1 year, and I had the opportunity to play him. The first thing I would do is challenge him, and I would probably piss him off, and I would do it intentionally because I know he's going to throttle me. There's no question. But that's what I want, because I know if I get him to do that, he's not going to let up on me. I don't want him to let up. I want him to give me like he's trying to win the Masters when we play 9 holes, 3 holes, or the 18 holes. Because if he does that, that tells me exactly where I'm at when I play him. And I'm watching something where I go, now I see the level that so I'm getting that person to come out, and I'm just saying it could be anybody, it could be any level. Even if it was just some local yoko at the club, I would want to, not, I wouldn't say just piss them off like they wouldn't play with me, but I would want to say something to them that would make them think, like, I can take you down. And then they'll come right out of the club and they'll do whatever you want, because they know they're going to throttle you. But that's what you want. You don't want to necessarily piss them off to where they don't want to play with you, because they're like, no, I'm not, you're not good enough and all this. You just want to, but you want to challenge them. And a lot of times the only way to get them to play with you is to put up something. And losing that is part of winning, because they've all had it done to them. There's not a person that's played this game that I know of, one that didn't play for something that was a great player, and one that didn't lose when they were better or worse. Doesn't matter. So that's another major way of turning the brain off. You're getting paralysis analysis. Just go out and spend 3 months, 4 months. Don't go to the range. Don't do anything. You might want to work on putting, but in chipping and pitching, which is smart. But you just play. You get out here, and if it's once a week or whatever, and get the club champion. Get the best player in the area if you can. Try to find them. If you don't know who to do it, go talk to the pro and say, look, I want to offer a challenge. I'm really trying to do this. I'm taking this serious. You might be 100 shooter, and they might laugh at you. But they laughed at Tom Brady too when he first came out of college. Didn't think he had a chance. So but you piss somebody off, they can do amazing things. So in my opinion, and if you don't want to fight, it ain't gonna matter what you do. You better just be really talented, and you probably won't be. You won't need anybody at that point if you don't. If you're so talented and you're like Dustin Johnson, and you don't have to get. He gets fired up too now. He had to do what he's doing. But in my opinion, what I've seen, if most people aren't any good, they don't have a lot of talent, and the ones that don't, and those are the ones that are winning club championship. They're not that good. They're not that talented. They just have learned to play pissed off and not lose. They got tired of losing, and there's something about that. And if you don't care to lose, well, yeah, we'll enjoy the game and have fun with it, and you'll probably be decent. But if you don't like to lose and you're playing a lot of golf, there is by default, no matter what style of swing you have, you're going to be a great player in time. So that would be one of the things I would always call the process. And the process is real as the day is long. It's not faked out. Technique doesn't win that one. It's a lot. That one's really all about the style of player, what you're doing, not, how you find yourself and how you learn how to compete. Like you just following it's really the laws of all the great players that I've been around. I have not seen anybody that didn't do that. I just haven't. So it's just something to keep in mind for that. But I mean, like I said, I've always said I believe in techniques. I believe there's ways to increase that, but I think that what I see a lot of times is players will stay in technique mode all year long, looking for the perfect slowdown effect or the perfect delivery angle or the perfect unwinding angle, circular and rotation and all that stuff and sinking and rotation and all that. And that's wonderful and all that, but you're spending all year doing it. You're not doing what they're doing. Like this guy or girl or whoever you want that's the best. They're really just turning back and hitting the ball. And so you have to know when to turn the training off. And that's what I'm trying to say about what happened. What was really special with that player I was telling you about that had paralysis of analysis. He had beautiful fundamentals. He even had really good fundamentals on his down, fairly good fundamentals on his downswing. It wasn't like he was, his delivery angles were good. Everything was working really well. He's very athletic. But again, kettlebells do that. Also turn the mind off. Those are really good things. Meditation are things that do it. But at the end of the day, it's just stepping up there and competing and putting yourself in awkward positions. And again, how you handle it, I can't say you have to say it this way because you got to find out the way that works best. When I say when you're wanting to challenge the best player at your club, and you can't do it once, I would try to get it and say, look, I want to play you once a week if you don't mind. I want to get in your group because usually that group's going to be the low 70s players. And most people that I call it the law of five, and you can do look at it in the way any way you want to look at this, the law of five. If you're at home right now and you're hearing this, you probably have five friends, and those five friends, you'll be somewhat of an average of those five friends. That's who you'll be in your life, in your social life, emotional, spiritual. You'll be somewhat of an average. You won't be exactly like them. They won't be exactly like you. It'll be a sum and an average of really your top five friends. And so I take that, and that could go on and on and on about that. It has nothing to do with golf. But if you take that right there and you go and you put it into golf, and if you look at it, all you got to do is think about it. If you think a certain way, if you act a certain way, if you do a certain way, there's going to be a connection, and the law of attraction is you're going to connect with people that think somewhat like you do in the ballpark, even though they're not exact. Same thing with golf. You go out and you play and you shoot 100 every single time. You go out and play golf with 100 shooters every single time. Um, you're, the odds are you're going to be a 100 shooter. If you go out and play with a club champion that's won it 5 times and it's a phenomenal player, and you got 3 of them that's chasing him down every time and or switching up, winning one year to the next, and you play with them and you get in that group. If you're a 100 shooter, you will learn how to adapt as a natural competitor. You'll learn how to adapt, and it's the best golf lesson you can ever have, because if you think you can just go beat them with tech, you're going to go find the secret, and you're going to go find, I don't care whose it is, and you're going to go live on the driving range and all this, and you're competing with the wrong people, you're not playing enough and all this stuff. Yeah, you get a lot better, you get close, you'll get up to the level, but when you get really how to make it really quick and fast, the fastest way is to go challenge them and get in their group and suffer, take the money loss. It's okay. Everybody else has done it too. They don't want to go out and say, "Oh, well, I'll play you for 10 cents a hole." They're not going to win that. That ain't going to work. You're going to have to lose some money. And if you can't do it, well, then wait until you get some money in the bank and play them. But if you want to get good, it's real controversial when I say this, but it's what I believe. It's what I've seen until somebody proves it different another way. I want to see it. But that's how I see, players become uh, fantastic in a short period of time, is competing and getting around those types of players, because you're going to be a law of average of whoever you're playing with. Why do you think Jordan Spieth plays with amateurs every day? I mean, he does when he goes home and piddles around. No, he's playing with Justin Thomas. They're playing. And they have been. You got to think they've been doing that since AJGA, and these players have always kind of snuck around, and they're competing against each other, and that's that iron sharpens iron, and you have to somewhat make yourself iron to a certain extent. But a lot of it's just getting out there and playing, and the older you are, the more important it is that you play in groups that will beat you, and they will take your money, and they will respect you for trying to compete and play with them, and then keep playing. Don't quit and say, "Oh, I'm going to go practice for a month, come back play." Play them next day, play them the next week, and and you will find that your game will radically change, in a very, very, very short period of time. And that's the most powerful way that I know how to get somebody to play, especially come out of if they've been working technique or not technique. That's the even if they're not, I've seen that as the most powerful way to get your game really good fast. Now playing them one time and quitting or three times and quitting, no, but playing them for 6 months to a year and you're really serious about getting better, I have never seen anybody not get better. Now the next way is through vision. And you can do one thing good about that is you can do that at home, just using vision training. And that's just going and thinking about, either think a lot of it. You can do a lot of different things. You can create a vision board. You can put tournament flyers up, and you put pictures of yourself. You can just kind of visualize the as trophy, that particular trophy. You can put a vision board up, and then you can also do the vision training, which I'm talking about, which is really seeing yourself at night, before you usually go to bed or in the morning, whenever works best for you. And it's closing your eyes, almost like meditation, and seeing yourself become a certain type of player and winning certain trophies, winning, being a certain level of, champion in your own relative to your own potential. And that might be 85. If you're a 150 shooter and your potential level says is 85, that's like par for you. And you get there, that's incredible. If you go out and that wins, if you're Jordan Spieth and you get to that potential level and you win Masters and all, that's the same, really the same exact thing. It's just the difference of, of potential, because everybody's potential will be different. Can't tell me that Dustin Johnson at 99, if he lives to be 100 years old and he's 100 and he plays a Dustin Johnson, same guy, plays the same guy at this age right now, that the potential level is not different. Look at Jack Nicklaus. If Jack Nicklaus tried to play right now, same golf course, even the same golf course in the new equipment, and he tried to play right now on that same golf course, it's crazy. He would probably play pretty decent, but if he tried to do it 4 days in a row, he can't. It's physically impossible. It's just that's part of the nature of the game in our athletics, and that's called potential. There's no way somebody is going to be as potentially gifted as this person right here at 95 years old, not in the world we live in now. And so the potential level, and it's the same as when you're 10 years old. You might be really good and really talented. You can see it coming up, but you're never going to there's a peak in that window where you play at as a male and a female. And when you get to there, those windows, you want to be ready when it's time. You don't want to be way too late and you don't want to be way too early. But one thing great about this sport is you could be 75, 80, 85. I've even seen a player that was 90 that was turned into it was a 4 handicap. It was a guy that owned a driving range that gave me one of my first gigs where I put my academy here in Austin, and I coached him, and he became a 4 handicap, legit 4 handicap. He was a 90 shooter, and he was an old grinder. He could tell he was still strong at 90. He was still had his mind right, and he was fired up. And he learned fundamentals, and he owned a driving range, but he had owned the driving range for I don't know how many years, long time. He just still wasn't any good. And um, but you learn the right fundamentals, and you have a desire to win. And he played golf a lot. He was a player, and all of a sudden, all that just boom, took off. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, sometimes it's better for this. And I'll tell you the biggest myth I've heard about becoming a student is like, well, it's better if the person's never played and picked up bad habits than it is somebody that's played 20 years. Bull. If you do what I do every day, I can tell you for a fact, if you come out and hang out at our driving range and you hang out with what we do, that is the most opposite you can ever say. My point is, if you don't even know how to play the game, that a lot of these players, if you never played before and you're scared to go out and play, and so then you go to the driving range and you don't, you're hitting on a range and you're learning the swing and the fundamentals, and then you go out the first time to play and it's like, oh, well, I don't even know how to play golf. Hitting it at the wrong times, putting it in front of the team. There's so many factors. It's much better to have 20 years of experience, and I don't care what your fundamentals are. I don't care what they look like. And then learn how to create, mold that in, because you know that understand the game, you understand how to work with, when players turn to hit, you understand the code and the morals of it and all that. You get all that, and you know how to play the game. Like, this shot requires this because it's going to do that. These players don't have that creativity. They have no idea. When a ball hits the green, they have no idea. Even if they do hit a great shot and hits the green, they go, oh, well, why did I do that? Well, look at the slope. That's why I did that. And, whereas experience, if you've got 20 years of experience, I'll take that all day long. So, um, You know, that is the biggest myth that I've ever heard in golf instruction is, well, you know, somebody that doesn't train, it's better not even do it and start. That's a joke. Because a lot of them, well, I've seen it because I've worked with a lot of them over the years, and I've watched my instructors work with these types of players that haven't played golf before. The one thing you don't even know is that they're ever going to go out and play. They're scared to death. Fear is their number one enemy. It's not even their golf swing or hitting it on the range. It's they're afraid to go hit. Well, you can't be afraid. You can't be a coward and play in great golf, and or play even good. You know, it's just you can't go out there and go, oh, I'll play when I start hitting it good on the range. Good luck. I hear that theory all the time. That's the second biggest myth. Once I start hitting it right on the range, perfect, then I'll start playing. Yeah, yeah. There's a player that'll be over at Falconhead today, and I've said this story 100 times, and he's got probably one of the best swings in all of Austin. And he still can't break 80, and it's because he hits 1,000 balls a day and he won't play. And he's got a beautiful swing, and he can't play. As soon as he does go to the golf course, always shoots above 80. And there's not a person out there that if you watch him swing, took videos of him and all that, you'd bet, if you had to bet on it, you'd say, oh, he's got to be low 70s. He might shoot in the 60s today, right? No, never going to happen. Paralysis analysis. He reads every book. He's trying something different every day, and he's in his, right now he's probably in the 60s, but he's been doing that for 20 years. And he'll tell you he can't break 80. And he's got a gorgeous golf swing. Gorgeous. A lot of power, a lot of rhythm, a lot of everything. But he's trying to, one philosophy comes out today or one video comes out with somebody else, and he'll try that. Next book comes out, he tries this. He's trying something different every day, looking for a secret, and finally wanting to get that to go play. Well, he's 60 now. He's been doing it for 20 years. So if they hadn't found it now, you're starting to lose some of that potential we're talking about. It's not about that. You could do it in 6 months by taking him off the driving range, and I've done this with players. Same type of player, pull him off the driving range, get them onto the golf course and competing, and not even tournament play. I like to get them to compete in money, and I'll tell you the difference. When you play in a tournament, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. When you play tournament competition, what I've seen people do, even though they may spend $200 for an individual competition, they'll go to the range and practice like crazy and hit all these balls and putt and chip and the ones that are doing it wrong. And then they go to play and they're out there working on their swing, and they spend 200, again, it's $200. They probably travel to the event, they're staying overnight. So you say it's a $400 or $500 deal. And they go out there and they shoot a million. They go out there as a player that looks good on the driving range. Now they're out there shooting 90s. You take the other players going to win that event, and what they're doing is they've been gambling with their buddies. They're competing every day. How many club champions? I ask everybody this. You send me an email on this if you want. I want to know how many of your club champions, the best players at your club, and how many balls they hit a week during the summer. How much you see them practicing. Then tell me how much you see them playing in competition, like with their buddies. I'm not even saying tournaments. So what I mean by that is if you play for a tournament and you say it costs you, by the time you travel and everything, $300, $400, $500, by the time you do all this, you'll still be trying to, because you're not playing, you're not really competing against anybody. You're not even competing against yourself. You're trying to make this swing that's perfect and hit this ball perfect, and then all of a sudden you're going to have it for the rest of your life. It doesn't work like that. What'll happen is you'll shoot a million, and you'll come back, you'll go to the drawing board, and you'll try harder at the same exact road you've been going down. When you take somebody that is really actually going to be the champion of that event, if you look at what they do, they play with people all the time that are better than they are, and they play them for money. Simple as that. There's no other way to say it. And then when they do it, they take their beatings, they put a beating on them, and they learn when they get into a competition, they don't change anything. They know that it's about competing. They understand. And so they don't they don't hit a lot of golf balls. They don't buy the next book and the best fad or whatever the next swing is going to be that's going to get them there. They don't do all that. What they do is they compete, and they always do, and they stay consistent. And that's how you keep your game sharp. Because if you're playing for $10 a hole, you're playing that particular hole. Every single hole is going to be very important. If it's $5, if it's a penny, and that's a big deal, something's got to be on the line every hole or every shot. And with multiple people to put heat on you, and you got heat on you every single hole. So you can't go out and go, oh, I'm gonna play the first 5 holes, and I'm gonna work on this backswing or this downswing, and I'm gonna do all this. and you get out there and you play the first 5 holes, and you got 4 players that are playing with you. They're excellent. They have you down over $100, 50 bucks, 20 bucks, 4 pennies, whatever it is. They've got you down, and again, and then finally you're going to go, you know what? I'm tired. I'm just going to hit it. I'm not going to keep getting beat like this. And you just start playing. And when then you let go, a lot of that stuff that you've been trying to do, you let go completely because now you're trying to fight and win. And as soon as you do that, that's when you get to that player's mode. And that's the most important thing in our whole program. Our techniques are really good. I'll stand by them. I'll do whatever. But I'm telling you, I've been around the world's best, and I've been around on both sides, amateurs and professionals. And I know the way. I've learned this. I don't know when it was. It was 10, 12 years ago. I'm not sure exactly. But the mental side of the game, you have to learn how to turn it off. And there's only really a few ways that they do it. You don't need to write a book that has 5,000 ways to become a player. No. You follow what I just said right there. Real simple. And I guarantee you do it. Play people that are better than you. Don't be afraid to lose money. If you are, probably won't get any good. And if you're a lab rat or a range rat and you read books every day and you start trying to be perfect, good luck. You're probably not going to get very far. You're probably going to get better, but you're never going to be able to go let loose and really compete against people that you need to be able to compete against. And so, and then, your technique should be, the way I look at technique, I don't know how much a percent of it is the process. It may be 15%, 1%. I don't know. It's probably roughly around 15%. I believe the way you train in the gym and things like that, if you were to make up a number, I would say it's probably 20%, somewhere in there. I would never make it. I'm not saying it's more important technique or working on technique, because I really don't. I think there's a certain point, like in our 3-month program, we do technique, 2 months. So it's most important. We do that first. Then we come in and we do the fitness. We put the fitness in because now we got technique where we can't really do much more with you. We've got you swinging the way we want you to swing. And you're happy, you're hitting it way better. Now we put the golf performance side of it in, between the biomechanics, the postures, and the movements. We put those in. That's the 3rd month. And then after that, you're off to the races and running. And then you got to where at that point you can go into maintenance mode, into playing mode. And there's other things you can do with that. But that's the way we do the 3-month program. Simple as that. And because if you only, your technique is only going to be able to max out at a certain level, and then it's the fitness part. And then to get the maximum out of the technique and the fitness, you do it with the mind. And that's, the mind is not going, I'm going to be mentally strong and doing meditation all day. That's not it. It's competing. Mind is competing. Competition. The number one thing to make any, if you're a Navy SEAL, that's why they call it Navy SEALs and not Navy SEAL. There's no such thing as Rambo. You compete with other people. And the more you compete, the more you'll fight. And the more you fight, the more you'll be at that level. You'll finally get to that, hopefully that law of average of 5, which is, you'll become that, whatever that is. If you're an 85 shooter, most of the time you're playing with people between 80 and 90, and that's your group. And if you've done it for years, that's your strong group. But if you want to be great, you got to get yourself into a game where you're playing with people who can shoot between 68 and 75. I don't care if you're 100. Everybody's been that guy or girl that has went in there and humbly taken their beatings, and then learn how to deal with it. And dealing with it is, you finally get tired of losing, and at that point it won't matter about how you do it. You just get it done. You'll make par when you shouldn't make par. You'll make birdies, and then all of a sudden your game becomes consistent, and you become a competitor. And then when you go off to play in a big competition that's an individual competition, that is already that's your habits. You know how to compete now. And so, with that being said, it was a lot today, but it talked about, like I said, the slowdown effect and the 3 stages of transition. First stage is probably the least important, which would be, depends on the length of swing. So if his length of swing is here, it would be down here. If his length of swing, as we know and we establish it, is here, it would be right here. Second part is, second and third, really both equally the same. You're going to slow down and let your body stop. No movement right, no movement left. It's just stopping. If anything, it can sink some, not squat. It doesn't even have to. It doesn't have to do anything right there, but everything just stops for a second, for a split second, and then you'll start to unwind at that point. And that's when, and the whole body should unwind as one unit, and it shouldn't be trying to spin and snap. But all of this should be trying to unwind smoothly and slowly as you're keeping pressure on this part of the shaft and moving your arms away from your body. And I'll let this play through, then I'll open up for questions. And if you're watching here, and of course it's super slow motion, but if you look about movement by movement, you can see how he's not snapping, even though you'll see he's open through impact. Of course he's open through impact, but he's not. He's taking his time. He's not trying to snap there in one movement from transition. And that's a torque-based swing, like I said, versus like a snapping based swing, or when I say speed, because speed is relevant, is both important with torque based and all this, but when I say speed mostly it just means snapping type energy. So if you'd see somebody like a Tiger back in the day, and a Rory, they've got snapping. Doesn't mean you can't play. Um, but even if they changed up, I haven't seen Tiger's new swing and what he's really working on. I don't really know too much about it. None of my business. This way, his style when he first came out though was a snapping based swing, and he did pretty well. But these torque based swings are the ones that where you see him play for years and years, and you don't see him really get injured much. Um, and they're just very, very, very powerful. Kenny Perry has one that's on the Champions Tour. West Short, one of the guys I work with as well, has a torque base. You just don't see it when you watch West. He's super powerful. I think top 5 in driving distance, has been every year he's been on the Champions Tour. Super powerful. He's super accurate as well. He's one of the best iron players in the world, and it's a torque based swing. And I got to be around that every day for a long time. And so the torque based swings are just they're just they and it doesn't mean that you're it's just a slower moving. It's like you're moving slower, but the club's working around you faster, and you just don't see it as much. It's what I always say. It's hard to see. So um, hard to see their power. I should put it that way. Especially live. Live's even it's even smoother live in my opinion. When I watch them swing live, like on the range, when I'm there, these pros like Dustin Johnson, all these players, it's even less. It's even less than it is, in my opinion, when you see it on TV. Even when they break it down in slow motion, it's just a different look. That's why I think so many great players, or great ways to learn. To also another way to lower your score is having players go to a tournament, a PGA Tour, LPGA tournament, and stay for a couple of days. Follow the best players that are leading and whatever, and just watch them. Don't try to copy their swing. Just watch them, and your eyes will give you something that I don't know what it gives you. Nobody's not proven, it's whatever, but I can't tell you how many times I hear that the players shoot their best rounds of golf after going to an event, not watching on TV, but going to an event and following it around for 36 holes, 18 holes, or the whole week or whatever. But either tour, and how when they come back out, they swing different, they hit the ball different, and there's no really reason for it other than that. So there's something that your eyes can pick up that will give you some feedback. And I think the younger you are, the better with that. But that's proven. Mimicking is something that it's done in an early age, but we can still mimic in an older age as well. So, all right. With that being said, I'm gonna open up for questions. I don't think I have anybody muted. Hopefully not. Anybody have anything? Probably not today, and that's okay if you don't. A lot of this was trying to mix it up. Usually, I save this stuff for when you get into when we're starting to get into play mode in the spring. But I thought, well, why not? Why not just go ahead and put it out there now? I really should probably put it out there every time with playing. I'm consistent with what I say with this, and I think the players that have been on here for a long time that hear this, they've heard this so many times about what I talk about it, and there's a reason for that. It's not made up. It's not something I made up. It's something that I've observed, and I've seen both sides of the ballpark on that. And there's a time and place to train. There's a time and place to let it go. And I see more people that, because most of the people that play golf have a somewhat analytical mind. They have a creative too. It's not that. It's not like everybody's analytical. But there's so many, and that's why our game is, you hit so many techniques and all these different styles, and really most of them really work. I mean, even the real radical ones will work at some level, but it's just like changing one style to the next. That's not really what makes people great. It's really is about competition and competing about people that are better than you. If you go to a job right now, and you take an entry level job, and let's just say you're training with the CEO and the board of the company, and let's say they're really good, because I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm just using them as they've done this their whole life, and they know this corporation backwards, forwards, inside out, left and right, and they know exactly what's going on in general. And you walk in, you have no knowledge. There's no way you can go in there and get that knowledge from staying with entry level, the same type of entry level employees. And it's not knocking them. We all start there. I did too when I started this thing. Um, but then all of a sudden you get compete. And if somebody gives you a break and say, man, if you could go, the best thing you could ever do in the world would be to say, hey, can I go shadow this board for a week? I'll take no pay. I'll take zero pay. I'll figure out how to make my bills work. I'm going to shadow them for a week. You can shadow them for a month, and you learn everything inside that business and how the function of it works, and you'll learn things that you couldn't learn in 30 years within 2 weeks. And then you start to see it, and then you're going to be a different person, a different employee for somebody like that than you would be if you just go right through the chain, what we normally do. And that's just normal, and it's the way we have to do it. And it could be for a small business, could be for a big business, I don't care what it is. But if you can train with the best, and they have made the mistakes before in what they've tried to do, they have seen and thought, well, it's going to work, and it didn't work, or like, oh, this isn't going to work, and it does work. But in general, they see everything as one. They don't see it as like one. They don't see it as like, oh, we've got one department in marketing, we've got one in sales, or we got one in accounting. No, it's just all one. That's how when you get with a great team, they see it all as one, because they've been a part of all that and that knowledge. And my point is, with all this, is the same with golf. If you take somebody that's played with 30 years of experience, and they've been a club champion 5 times, and you're just kind of getting started, and you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or 10, you, you've got to respect where they are. If you get 5 or 6 more of them you can play with, or 10 of them in different groups, obviously, and you can compete and play with them on a weekly basis. And if it costs you money, it costs you money. Probably will. They've earned it. You're probably going to lose, but you're going to learn a lot faster, because you're going to, there's that human spirit that's going to get tired of losing, and you're going to fight back, and you're going to compete. And then you'll start paying attention to the areas that you need to pay attention to. When you do train, you'll train in the right areas, and then you'll also know how to get out there and not just get throttled for 18 holes. It might be 9 holes, in 6 months, and then a year later it might be 3 holes. And eventually, if you got to that level and it's only 3 holes you're getting smoked on, you're probably where your whole goal was anyway. So, you might be a 70s player, or low 70s, mid 70s, whatever, but you're at that level, and then you're in the group. Now you've made it. Because if you keep shooting 100 for a year and you're playing in the 70s group, they're not going to, there's never no way that's going to happen. You'll have to earn it. And they won't let you play every week, but I would try. I would be persistent. I want to get in here. And if they see that you're willing to lose money to do it, they'll take you. They'll take you on. But if eventually, even if you're losing every time, depends on the amount of money, I'm sure, at a certain level, but they might not let you because it's getting boring. So, but you will compete in general as a whole. When you're talking about as a general, as you're talking about as a whole, more people are going to compete than not, or they'll quit eventually. And the goal is not to quit. The goal is to go compete, and that'll get you what you're already looking for with your swing techniques and your ball striking and all that. A lot of people are looking at it just as its own little thing, its own entity. Not so. It's not that. So, but anyway, I appreciate everybody getting on here and listening, and everybody's going to be when we send this out too. And if you have questions, just let me know. But go compete. Work on this stuff too. This stuff that will give you an edge when you start to let it go. Because if you don't train it, and then there's a chance that obviously it's not a chance. You won't play the potential you can when you do let it go. That's what the techniques are for, is to give you more potential and a better advantage when you start to get into play mode. But you have to be in play mode no matter what. So Anyway, I hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll do this again soon. And if you have any questions, just feel free to shoot them to me. Thank you.